If you really look at the surface, I had a perfect life. I recently got married, had a great job, nice education, financially was doing good. But underneath, this emotional turmoil was taking a toll.
Greetings. Welcome to Zen Mind, an ongoing conversation with spiritual seekers on their path to Zen. My goal with this podcast is to introduce you to different spiritual practices and programs through direct contact with individuals who found these programs deeply transformative. My guest today is Hardik Dixit, who shares his transformative journey from being very shy and reserved to being very spiritually outgoing after he did just one program of Sudharshan Kriya from Art of Living Foundation. Art of Living Foundation is a humanitarian, educational, and voluntary-based organization operated across more than 156 countries throughout the world. Founded in 1981 by Sri Sri Ravishankar, also known as Sri Gurudev, offers several programs in stress management and self-development through ancient techniques of breath, meditation, and yoga. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Zen Minds, Hardik.
Thank you. Very glad to be here.
All right, so very excited to talk to you and learn about some of the techniques and practices you're doing. So before we get into the practices which you do today, tell me a little bit about how was your upbringing? Were you sort of religious? Were you inclined to spiritual practices when you were growing up?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town in the western part of India, and I spent a lot of time growing up with my grandparents and parents, and they are all religion. So I've seen a lot of chanting into the home, and that's how I grew up. And both of my grandfather and father, they were doing some of the breathing techniques called pranayamas. That's how I grew up. And from a spirituality perspective, one of the things that has role to play in my life is my father was very fond of Osho. So he had a lot of material and the audios and stuff. So I listen to it every now and then. I would say it piqued my interest. A lot of his thoughts kind of made me think, oh, I have never thought it that way. So those kind of influences I had, but I never meditated, so to say. But it played a role.
So when you talk about Osho, I think it brings me fond memories when I was growing up. Again, very similar to your kind of an experience. I was heavily influenced by Osho, especially in the college days when you have a sort of a very rebel mind, and I did not want to be conformed to any religious thoughts. I was sort of a rebel. I didn't want to do any of these. But there was one interest of mine, of course, from the very beginning, like right from my childhood. Since I was 9, I was always inclined to learning about mind, right? So I started my journey through hypnosis. I mean, as a child, I would be very interested in, like, wouldn't it be cool to actually hypnotize somebody like your friends and have them do some of the things which you want them to do? So that's how I got introduced to meditation through hypnosis. It's a long journey. But again, through hypnosis and meditation and coming back to Osho when he has this very solid definition of meditation, and so connecting the dots from why meditation is important and how not only to achieve enlightenment but also well-being. That is the core things. Like, if you can live the life to the fullest in this world, then the other things sort of just happen, right? So I can absolutely relate to your story in there. When did you get introduced to Art of Living, and what pushed you into Art of Living?
Yeah, it is so interesting. So back in 2000, one of my distant friend, he did the Art of Living course, and he had all this nice thing to say about the course. So it piqued my interest. But I never thought that, I'm ready to do the course and see where it takes me. So, and growing up in India, I knew about the art of living, the sky, but I, for some reason, never paid too much attention to it. And in back of my mind, I also had a thought that maybe I'll do it once I retire. Right now, I have a busy life, so many things.
Meditation is not for youngsters, right?
Not for them, exactly. I have a happy, nice life. I don't want to meditate right now. That kind
Yeah.
of thing was there in the back of the mind. And and once I finished up the college, started working, came to United States. Those were some very turbulent times for me. Since childhood, I have somewhat of a sensitive personality. So if some of the negative, so-called negative events that would happen in my life, that would leave an impression on me, and it took me a while to come out of it. So one of the friend doesn't behave certain way, had a fight with somebody, those things would take a toll on me. And problem just got aggravated in the adult life, and I had to deal with the relationships, deal with this corporate American life, and there are so many emotion. It's an emotional roller coaster. If you really look at the surface, I had a perfect life. I recently got married, had a great job, nice education, financially was doing good. But underneath, this emotional turmoil was taking a toll. And I just couldn't know how to handle it, how to process those emotions. If something happens at work, somebody doesn't behave certain way, those things would take a toll on me. And I also went into tendency of overthinking, replaying all the past events over and over again. So these things were happening, and I was really struggling, with these emotions, and always had that knack that there has to be something more in life than this mundane life. There has to be something more. So back in 2016, I had a friend, Pooja, who was into art of living. He was doing the sky Sudharshan Kriya, and she told me that she's doing this. It's really good. I did not pay much attention. I was like, okay, that sounds great, but I don't know if I'll be doing this. Then in 2016, the founder of Art of Living, Sri Sri Ravishankar, he was visiting Boston, and there was a huge program in Boston University called Get Happy. So that piqued my interest, and she's like, nothing doing, come over. So she nudged me a little bit, and I ended up going there. And that was my first kind of introduction to meditation. And I saw these people who are laughing, dancing, just high on life. There are so many concepts in the mind, right, about the meditation, like you said. So it was very different. And then I saw this people with a lot of energy. And then I remember doing the first meditation when Sri Sri Ravishankar, he came and he led us into meditation. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Just in 15, 20 minutes, felt that peace of mind, relaxation. I was like, wow, I want to do more. And then immediately after that, I did this sky breathing, the Sudharshan Kriya. Sky is also a breathing technique based meditation, which is also in his voice. And it was phenomenal. The very first experience that I had of the sky, something was just lifted off of my chest. I was feeling so light because I was carrying a lot of grudges and negativity for other people, with all of this overthinking and negative instances. And it all started tapering off. I almost felt this is kind of a new life for me and truly enjoying it.
The important thing here is to point out that these meditation help understand the blockages in energies, right? I mean, we sort of, every time we're talking about emotions, they sort of block the energy flowing throughout the body, and they attach themselves to different parts of your body, and then that's what makes you sort of like inefficient. And then I can relate to it because I've been meditating for a very long time, And so I did not have much appreciation for yoga and all the other practices, which sort of talks about body more than mind. And so I'm more of a Vipassana guy, or more of a mind guy, where I can sit and then look deeper inside. But there are definite benefits of not only those practices, but also practices like yoga, which sorts of makes you more sensitive towards the energy which flows in your body.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Yes, it works on those energy channels and make it a reality. You know what I mean by that? Let's say you and I and everybody around us know that anger is bad, right? When anger comes, you know it's bad for you, but you still can't resist and you get angry and you lash out.
You get withdrawn, or you get carried away with that whole process, right?
You get carried away, right? Even though conceptually you know it's bad for you, you shouldn't be doing it. By doing this breathing technique and meditation, you feel that way from within, where you can manage that anger much more better way. So you don't get kind of carried away by the anger or any other emotion, and you can sort of detach it and manage it in much better way. So it becomes that living reality rather than just being a concept. So that's the beautiful thing that I see happening from within.
That is a beautiful point you made. It like, how can you be very conscious and mindful of these emotions when they arise? Because when you are mindful and conscious when they arise, then you have a chance, an opportunity to sort of manage it or control it. Like if you get carried away, it's too late when you look back and say, I shouldn't be angry at that time. It's too late now because the act or deed has already been committed. And so the question is, how can one be mindful when those things starts happening? And so for those and practices like sky meditation or deep breathing is going to help you understand the emotions as they arise.
Exactly. You can witness those emotions and can better manage them. And by no means I'm saying that I don't get angry at all, right? I've been practicing it for 6 years. Anger still comes up. It doesn't last that long. The intensity is less because of this breathing technique and meditation. And one of the
even within these 6 years, you have seen drastic changes in your way of approaching anger, depression, or any of the strong emotions which arise.
Oh yes, in a big way. I can clearly see the changes that I see in myself. Emotion is one of the biggest thing. That doesn't last that long. Second thing I noticed is I can be much more in the present moment. I have a tendency to either overthink of the past events or sometimes plan for so ahead into the future, and that causes a lot of anxiety. It's like a pendulum, past and future. But life is right here in the present moment, and breath is in the present moment. So with this breathing technique, can be in the present moment, and that's where the joy and life is. So that has been my experience. How can by doing this breathing technique, I can be more in the present moment and just enjoy the life for what it is. And one of the biggest other change that I have seen is this overall zeal and enthusiasm to enjoy the life. There is a concept with the meditation that you only do it if there is something wrong in your life. That's not the case. Even if your life is great, you can still do meditation and capitalize on this enthusiasm and zeal and this renewed energy. I was one of the person who can only go through the day after drinking 2 to 3 coffees. Not that coffee is bad or anything, right? But there is this dependence, and now I don't need to be dependent on that. I just have this zeal and enthusiasm and be more productive throughout the day with this breathing technique and meditation. So these are some of the big things that I have seen, and it has impact on my sleep, right? Reduction of stress, relationships, sleep better, big time, right? Because the mind is calm and rested, you have a very nice deep sleep. So it affects in many areas of the life.
So benefits of meditation beyond just the individual. It's like your surrounding becomes much more friendlier, you could say. The other people find you more helpful, friendlier as well, right? So it has impact beyond just the individual. You start to sort of dissipate those positive energies, which goes beyond your personal space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah. Other people can tap into that energy. They can feel it. Yes, absolutely. And it's a different energy and dynamics, but it really goes a long way, when you have it in the group. Yes.
Yeah. And so today, what you're practicing is the sky meditation. So sky
That's
stands for what? Sudharshan Kriya
Yeah, SKY stands for Sudharshan Kriya Yoga.
Yoga. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And so how long is the practice?
Yeah, so SKY practice takes around 20 to 25 minutes to do it. I do it every single day. It's recommended to do it once a day. So, it's very practical, I feel. You can do it in the 20 minutes. There are specific counts and specific rhythms that are given in which you do. So it's very structured program that way.
Okay, so about 20 minutes or 25 minutes you have in your day, then you can definitely practice this. And this is one of the beginners program, or?
Yeah, Art of Living has quite a few program. This is the beginners program, the Sky program. And after that, if you want to go deeper, there are other programs. There is something called Silent Retreat, where you go much into your experience. There's also something called Sahat Samadhi meditation. So those programs that you can do later on. But the Sky is kind of the foundation program.
As I'm, talking to the other meditators across from different traditions and practices, I find that there has to be one initiation into focusing from outside into inside. And so Sudarshan Kriya is a way of, focusing your mind onto inside what's happening.
You brought the right point, right? The core of the program is, going within, right? That's the whole idea. But what I feel, which truly kind of I've seen working with the Sky, is a lot of us struggle to meditate. When you sit and meditate, there are tons of thoughts. A lot of people, they just feel restless, including me. When I started meditating, I was like, I don't want to face this, right? You run away, you open your eyes, right? But the big distinction that I've seen with the Sky, it's a breathing technique based meditation. And that breathing technique has amazing healing power. But breath plays a very big role in healing us, which many of us are unaware of. But breath, and a lot of research has been happening. Research is actually catching up onto it. But that's the core of the Sky breathing technique, right? It's a breathing technique based meditation. And when you do that breathing technique, it has enormous physiological benefits, emotional benefits, and mental health benefits. So it works in all those three areas. And that to me is very powerful package in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point in there. It's a package. The meditation sort of has become very popular these days, right? I mean, so you see it on Netflix has a complete series on meditation. You go to Audible, you have these guided meditations. But the one thing which they're lacking is the breath part. And one of the things especially with breathing is that, in today's generation, we tend to think of mind and body as separate entities, but in fact they are just one. Is in yogic science, it's mind influences body and body influences mind. And so as long as we treat them differently, we wouldn't be able to achieve the holistic benefits of meditation. So you're using the breathing to quieten the mind, and once the mind is quietened, then you're able to perceive things which you couldn't perceive in the waking state, but your mind was agitated. Now, since the mind has settled down, and now you are able to see and feel things which always existed. It's just that we got lost in the other, challenges of life and emotions.
That is spot on. That is spot on, right? It really comes down to how do we manage our mind? That is the biggest thing, right? And we all have noticed our mind most of the time doesn't listen to us, right?
I mean, I don't think it listens to us anytime. In fact, we
Yeah,
think that it listens. In fact, it's still doing what it wants to do it.
exactly. That's the thing, right? So our mind doesn't listen to us. It has, that tendency, whatever we resist, it persists. Let's say there is a negative situation in your life. You tell your mind, hey, I don't want to think about the situation, this person. But your mind keeps on thinking about that situation, right? And that's the complexity of mind, right? It's just so hard to manage the mind at the level of the mind. And that's why this beautiful analogy will make sense. So let's say you're flying this kite, right? And imagine this kite as your mind, right? Going in all different directions, right? How do you manage that kite? With the string. And that string is our breath. With the help of our breath, we manage our mind. That's the idea. And one of the sages in the Indian tradition also nicely said that breath is the king of the mind. And what it means is, when there is a king or, big person coming into the town, right? Everything kind of settles down, right? Everybody tries to be good. And that's exactly what happens. When you tap into the power of breath, your mind quiets down. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid point. Is that in yogic traditions, I think they talk about like breath as a thread which keeps all these beats of thoughts united. And so you have this life as we experience it through the breath, which is a thread of life knitted through emotions as beats. Right? So they are all connected to this breath. Because one day when we die, the breath sort of like stops and all the emotions sort of like scatter. They're all connected through this breath. And the question is like, how can we use this breath, which is the needle, which keeps all these beats together, to understand the deeper states of mind and life, in fact, right?
So true, so true, absolutely. And it is the much more powerful way to manage our mind. It really pains my heart when we look in United States and across the world, right? People are going through anxiety and depression, right, and taking all kinds of medications. But breath, I feel, is much more powerful and natural way to manage our emotions and mind. And there is a beautiful book written by the gentleman James Nestor. He wrote a book called Breath, and he specifically talks about the power of breath. So I would highly recommend, to everybody to read that book. And he speaks about all kinds of breathing technique, including sky, and see what are his observations about this technique.
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing which I always find, that the breath and then focusing on the breath is so much of an Eastern thought, and it's so beautiful that so much of research has been done, which is sort of like missing in the sort of Western culture. We still have all these, exercises which are more like projections of mind, but they make you feel happy, right? Don't take me wrong. I mean, like if you go through a guided meditation, which takes you to like some place, and then your mind becomes sort of calmer, but it's not as calmer as it can be. Only when you combine that with breath, then you are able to really settle the mind to even observe what an agitation of a mind may look like. Because we are so caught up in the agitated mind that we have these sort of false identity of ourselves, because we are getting caught up in these emotions. And for me, that is what is AJ. In fact, that is nothing but a bundle of thought. But when you go deeper, when the mind sort of calms down, then what remains, devoid of emotions, is a hint of what me or I could be.
That is so powerful. Absolutely. That's and once you tap into that source, right, our true source of happiness, joy, everything arises from there. And when you are in that state, you are in complete bliss. It's
And so these are the techniques, right? So the biggest thing or the opportunity for people who are listening in is that there are tons of opportunities available through these programs offered by many, many different masters, living masters. And so for people who are interested in exploring deeper states of mind, have challenges with mind not being calm, or they have challenges with emotions, or even the blockages in bodies through energies or lethargy, and all these challenges we may have, try one of these practices which are offered. Connect with people who have taken these courses and talk to them and understand. Take the first step, right? Just like you, it's sometimes hard. You may think like, wow, I'm an engineer. I don't need to understand, and I don't need to calm my mind. It's right. Only when you taste that sweetness, then you sort of like reflect back. It's like, wow, I wish I could have known this before. Because, right, that's sort of difficult to explain what they're missing.
Oh, absolutely. That is the biggest regret that I have. I wish I knew this in my college years. I wish I knew this in my teenage years, right? I wish I knew this earlier. Absolutely. And it is no brainer. I was reading a CDC report just some time ago. They did a survey of people during the pandemic. They asked people, if you felt anxiety and depression in last 7 days, 41% people said yes. Imagine that number. The mental health is the biggest issue our generation is facing right now across the world, right? And this is much more natural way to kind of, manage that, right? I feel it's just the need of the hour, right? And the biggest thing is all of us think that, it's a reactive approach. When something bad happens, then I'll do this. But it's not like that. This is the proactive approach. You don't want to wait till something happens. We can have big emotions in our life, loss of a loved ones. Now at that time, if you want to go and learn to meditate, it's going to be super difficult.
All your life you trained your mind to be rogue, and then the minute when you want it to be tamed, it's not going to happen overnight. So exactly. You got to really practice so that you can apply it when the time of need.
Exactly. That's the key, right? So don't wait that time. Proactively have something in your arsenal, right? Have the tool so that if this big emotion comes in, you can, look into this or, come back to this, right? And much more better way manage your emotions and your life, right? And then you can help other people, right? We all want to help other people, but if we can't, help our own emotions and our own mind, we cannot even help others, right? Our loved ones and people around us. So it's really the need of the hour, where we need to look into how to manage our mind with the holistic, natural way.
Yeah, very well said. Is there any last thoughts you may have for listeners who are still sort of like debating or wondering, is like, should I do this? Is this right for me? What is your word of advice?
Well, my word of advice is it really comes down to experiencing it. There is only so much you can listen to it. You have to experience it once, try it out. I have no doubt in my mind that it can immensely help. And second thing is, it really is a scientific based technique. There is a lot of research. So there are so many enormous benefits that science is just catching up. So rather than relying on any of the other things, like we spend so much time on, eating right, sleeping right, drinking right, and that is all important. Just pay a little bit attention on how we are breathing and do this breathing technique and meditation. It can go a long, long way, in healing ourselves. And as I said, like we brush our teeth, that's a dental hygiene, right? It goes without saying. We do it every single day, right? We take shower, we do exercise, running. That's a bodily hygiene, right? Goes without saying. But what about mental hygiene? Often most neglected. By doing this technique 20 minutes a day, take care of that mental hygiene part.
Very well said. Thank you so much, brother. It was very nice talking to you.
Thank you.
I hope that people really enjoyed it. Thank you again.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you.